Yo, what's going on, guys? My name is Jevonthedragon. I am a studio engineer from Gremlins Recording Studios outside of Chicago, Illinois. And this is going to be my 20 FL sauce tips going into the new year. Thanks again for giving me 100 subscribers. Okay, so tip number one is going to be to get a template. Whether you're a producer or an artist recording your vocals, an engineer doing somebody else's vocals, having a go-to template can be instrumental for making your projects better. I released at the beginning of the year a FL 20.9 vocal template. After using it over the last few months, I wanted to make some improvements. I did really appreciate you guys picking that up as much as you guys did. So I'm gonna go ahead and give out some sauce right here. I have a new template. It is Star Template 2. It's gonna go ahead and be for free on my website. You can see that right here. It's gonna be this one right here, Jevonthedragon Star Template. I'm not gonna show it right now. You guys can just go check it out on the website or whatever to see what's all in there. But it's a lot. It's basically like my last one, but new and improved, a little bit less complicated and a little bit more to the point. In order to save this, you'll just like open up the FLP file, then you'll go save as. You're gonna go to Documents, Image Line, FL Studio, Projects, and then Templates. There you go. Tip number two, whether you're a producer or a vocalist, is really instrumental in making sure that you have all of your files and are able to share and send them. One of those is going to be basically to go to your file settings, whatever, project, and you're going to be able to set up a folder where everything that you do in your project is going to be saved to. Now, if you're just a producer that's making beats using VSTs and things like that, important to you, but if you're resampling, and some of the tips I'm going to go into later are going to cover that, I recommend you do that. Just go in there, pick out a place to save them, and make a file, make a unique file. Like this one would be like YT video, and then, you know, like whatever, YT bips. Then everything you do, if you do that first thing when you save your project, it'll ask you if you want to save your project to that folder. Click yes, and then everything that you do will just be inside of that folder rather than going to, you know, having that one folder in your documents that just has all of your vocals and takes and resamples and whatever you're doing. So I highly recommend that you do that. Tip number three is one that we do not do enough as vocalists, and us producers put a lot of work into making sure that you guys can do this. So I'm going to go ahead and show it now. So for instance, if I'm going to have like a beat, for instance, let's say this one. Okay. So this beat is in 168 beats per minute, but our project is at 140 beats per minute. So you can see that this is not synced to the grid. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to put this up to 168. Then I'm going to go ahead and delete the file, put it back. You could also just put it in stretch mode. And then you'll put it on there. And now, as you can see, this beat is all nice and sunk up to the grid. Now, there is something a little bit strange that happens when you do some of these MP3s, okay? When you're dealing with MP3s, what you'll see is right here is you'll get a little bit of silence, okay? The way that we're going to deal with this, because this is not syncing it to the grid, so we're going to go ahead and go into here. We're going to click none. We're going to pull this back as far as we can, and then boom, put it on there. And as you can see now, to almost perfect accuracy, and sometimes there's a little bit of stuff off, but this is almost perfect. This is perfect. You can see right here that the first hit hits right on a bar. That's probably how the producer did it. You can see that this is all making sense. It's all like lined up with our little grid, and your song is going to now be able to be synced up. This affects reverbs, this affects delays, this affects how limiters function. I highly recommend that you do this. If you're not syncing up your beats to the tempo, then everything that you do in the song is going to be off. So this is especially important for vocalists, but us producers make this stuff on purpose. It's important to go ahead and do that. Tip number three is insane for both producers and for vocalists. I recommend that if you're having problems with your CPU usage and you're 20 tracks into either, a middle of a beat or a song that you're recording, and your CPU is starting to get high, it's starting to get that cackling sound, you're running 80 plus, the shit's turning red, everything's going bad. What you need to do is you need to go over here to Tools, Macros, and switch Smart Disable for all plugins. What this is going to do is any plugins that aren't being used at that time, and the second like at the time that the song is playing, are going to be disabled automatically, and when they are like used, they're going to turn back on. This is going to massively increase your CPU performance, and I really recommend that you guys set up a template where that is the default. Mine is set to do that. I believe that if you pick up my star template, that one's also going to do it, but I don't know if that setting carries over to other projects. So just double check it, click it on your projects. It's not gonna hurt to turn it on. Tip number 4 is going to be to save your vocal chains to a dedicated folder in your file browser that you can use for different things. These are all really like easily grabbable and stuff. So if I have my mixer over here, and let's say on number 3 I want to put my, I don't know, my layers, preset, I'm gonna put that on there, and then okay, and then boom, okay, cool, we're good. You know what I'm saying? So that's just a really good example of how you can easily be able to drop different things from other projects and stuff. And I do still advocate for you to go back inside of there and tweak those things, but for ease of access and just like moving through stuff fast, highly recommend it. Oh, and by the way, if you don't know how to add something to your file browser, you just go over here to this little file thing right here, and you just click one and just add it. So that'll be the recording path. Cool. Tip number 5 is going to be to go onto r/drum kits on Reddit. Whether you're a vocalist or a producer, I highly recommend you do this. You're gonna find a lot of good stuff on the Reddit itself, but the better thing is that you're gonna find a bunch of passionate people who also have access to a bunch of materials. Talk to people, DM them. You're gonna find a lot of people are more willing to help you out than you know, and will cut you really good deals on stuff. You'll figure it out once you get there. Just go over to r/drum kits and start your journey. Start DMing people. Figure it out. You're gonna do great. Tip number 6 is going to be to resample things when they become too CPU intensive. Now, for all intensive purposes, this beat is not at all too CPU intensive, but let's say that it was. So what I can do is go to the mixer where my song is playing. I can turn on the arm function, and then I can click Alt-R, and then you can resample whatever you're doing. You can also, to expedite this process, say you only want to do a certain part of it, you can also, you can also just resample, let's say, that much of it. Go ahead and open up your mixer again, same thing, Alt-R, song selection. Okay, you can also do this for patterns. You can do this for anything you want. This is also going to resample it with the plugins on it. So if you're running something with a bunch of plugins, you want to reduce CPU usage all the time, not just with the macro that I showed you earlier. This is a really good way of doing that. Tip number 7 is going to be to automate your effect buses. So for this instance, okay, so if you're already not doing this, then you need to go get one of my vocal templates. You can get the new star template. It's going to have this set up for you, but you need to be bussing out your effects. This will do it in parallel and be able to add the wet signal without having to fuck up your dry signal. What you want here is mainly to, where'd my mouse go? I gotta go do this haircut pretty soon. So in this case, let's say that I have this reverb and I have it down to here for whatever reason, okay? And during this part of the song, I want it to go up to higher because I want this part of the video to have a bunch of reverb for some reason. So I'm just gonna set an automation clip. You can set an automation clip to do only what's selected by clicking this area, and boom. Now when you're talking, as time goes on, this reverb is going to go up and be brought into the song more as I'm talking, and it's going to have a little bit more of an effect. You can see how this can be very creative and do cool things. This one's for my producers. Whenever you're trying to grab something inside of your piano roll, let's say that you have a drum pattern and you have I don't know, like some hi-hats or something that look like this. You want to copy them over to the other place. I'll show you at the end how you can do that, but you could always do that top way if you already know that. Another way, you can just grab all the notes in a section, hold down Command and click the actual key. This will select all of them that are there. Easily move them over like this. That's a quick one. Another one for my producers, over here in the piano roll, you can click View, or you can click this little drop-down menu, then you can click View, Scale Highlighting, and then set the scale that you want it to be in. So in this one, I want D sharp minor or E flat minor, and now you'll see that the notes out of key are all not highlighted. So that's pretty cool, pretty useful. I use it all the time. All right, I got a haircut. Okay, so tip number 10 is going to be have a dedicated folder for things like MIDI, FX, one-shots, loops, all of that stuff directly in your file browser. Over here, I have mine all labeled with like exclamation points. I have like MIDI, one-shots, like samples where I keep my loops. I have like my own like kit. That's something else you can do is like set up your own drum pack where you take your favorite sounds, put them in there. That's a really good way to do it. And I also have stuff like risers, FX, all that stuff in here. This is really good for ease of access. When being a producer, an engineer, you know, you want to have the access. You want to have access to all of your tools at very like convenient for you. You want to be able to work fast. Sometimes finding places where some of these things can be like solid loops, solid MIDI stuff that you can trust can be hard. So I'm actually going to be dropping something called the XVX Volume 1 kit coming pretty soon. It's going to be a kit full of loops that I've created myself. They're all going to be correctly labeled, pitch and key, you know, tempo and key I meant. And then also MIDI. I'm going to have one-shots for you. There's going to be a Vital sound bank. So if you use the plugin Vital, which is free to use, it's basically a wavetable synthesizer similar to Serum, then you guys can easily access those sounds as well, along with some other bonuses that I'll go over. Right now on the screen, you're going to see some logos for it, and I'm posting on my Instagram about it, and over the next couple weeks, I'll be talking more and more about that. When you're tracking vocals, you want to be trying to aim for around -12 to -10. And a really easy way of being able to keep this in mind would be to get one of these free dB meters and put this on your actual tracking, like right here on your actual tracking. Like normally you'd have this as your tracking and you'd be bussing it out to your vocal chain. In this case, I just have a little bit of a chain on it right now. It's not really doing that much, but you'll notice I have this free dB meter on there, and you can just kind of monitor how loud your stuff is. Now you can see when I'm talking, sometimes it's a little bit below 12 and sometimes it's going up a little bit above. This little line that represents like the peak. I try to aim of trying to stay like keep my stuff at -12 to -10 at the most for the most part. If you get some transients like I just did there where it hit -6, that's fine. Your compressor is meant to handle that type of stuff, but you want to limit that to trying to be only your like transients and the loudest parts of your sound. For the most part, your song's going to sound better if your vocals are all consistently around -12 to -10. All right, so this one's a little bit different. So tip number 12 when mixing vocals is to turn your stuff into complete mono when mixing your voice with your beat. So for example, now what I mean specifically is when you're mixing your compression and your saturation. So let's say I turn this compressor on, it's gonna be a little bit loud. If I do this peak reduction a bunch, and if I do this, now you can really hear the compression and the actual like characteristics of the song, the timbres being changed. And as I open it up, you're gonna see what the compressor is actually doing a lot easier in mono rather than if it was in stereo like this. And I would be turning it up. Yeah, you can still hear it, but you can't hear it as pronounced. It's a little bit more hidden. When you have the whole master in mono, you're gonna be able to figure out where you want your song to be compressed to actually, and you'll also be able to place it in the beat better. If you have problems placing your song in the beat, like in a regular sense, then this is gonna be really helpful for you in terms of volume. And then the other thing you should do with it is also for your saturation. When you have your saturation, you know, if you keep it in mono, you're gonna be able to hear it a lot more. Now, of course, you're gonna be able to hear this as when it's extreme like this, when it's like this too. A little bit harder to notice the difference once you get down into this area. And when it's in mono, it's very apparent. You can hear like all the little saturation that's occurring and stuff. So I recommend starting out at 100%. Turn your master to mono, start out at 100%, and then just bring it back and try to aim for somewhere in that like 15 to 30 region. I don't know, anywhere. It's really up to you. I mean, there's no rules to this stuff, but I find that normally putting my master in mono is a really good tool of making me be able to hear things a little bit more subtle or things that are going to be affecting the tone and timbre of the vocal itself. Tip number 13 is that clipping can be okay when using analog emulations. But what I mean by analog emulations are things like the CLA mono. This is like an emulation of an LA2A. So let me just for a second, peak reduction, peak reduction, peak reduction, peak reduction, peak reduction, peak reduction, peak reduction. All right, so let's just set the compressor, I don't know, like there for now. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so if I were to have this, we'll put this down to like say like right here. Now, this is going to be a little bit loud. Warning, warning, warning. I'm going to crank, absolutely crank the audio into here. And you can hear that this clipping that's going on is not the absolute worst thing. So especially when I get over here, I'm clipping all over the place right now. But it doesn't sound that bad because it does have that digital sound a little bit, but the CLA is kind of having a better characteristic, and I'm not even going to show you what it sounds like when that's off because it just sounds horrible and crackly. But I do recommend that if you want to have that like blown out, overdriven sound, you can obviously do that with saturation. That's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I definitely recommend like at least taking a look at trying to use one of these analog compressors to kind of give any of your clipping or your louder vocals a little bit of like a unique like saturation to it within it of itself. Some of the ones I recommend is the CLA2A from Waves, whatever the FGLA one is from Slate. I have that one as well. I use that one sometimes. I believe Softtube or Native Instruments also has one that's a CLA or an LA2A emulation. That one's really good as well. I enjoy using that one. I use that one at the studio. All three of those are good options if you're looking for analog compressor emulations that are going to be useful for this setting and just in general for vocals. Tip number 14 is going to be especially for the new vocal engineers or artists out here, and this can be useful to know for producers too because a lot of these tools I use in my production as well. But Slate Digital and Waves plugins are cheap and professional sounding. I highly recommend that you go to both websites. You can get the all access pass for a Slate all access pass that gives you all of their stuff for I think it's $10 a month, which is just highway. I mean, the monthly thing is a little bit annoying because over time, yeah, you're probably going to be able to pay for all the plugins, but that's going to take years and years and years. I mean, you're spending $120 a year to have access to over 100 plugins or something stupid like that. Maybe it's 50, but they're all really, really good. And you get Metatune, which is my go-to auto-tune. You get a bunch of really good analog compressor emulations. You get a virtual mix rack where you can set up a chain within it itself, so you don't have to hold up all these things, and it'll run a little bit better for your CPU. And Waves has a ton of good stuff too. The CLA2 is from Waves. This RVox, which is just mainly my gate. I'm using it to compress right now in this setting, which I don't normally do, but this is really good. This Infinity EQ is not my favorite EQ, but I have been trying it out from Slate. It's not half bad. It's it's just I don't really like the workflow very much of it, but I do recommend it. If you like the Pro Q3 workflow, then you're gonna like this workflow as well. And other than that, just go to Waves, and they're always cheap. Like I said, the Slate Digital All Access Pass is $10 a month. Waves has ridiculous sales all the time, year round, especially if you wait till Black Friday or sometime, and usually during the summer they have a really good one too. You can usually get buy one, get one free type of deal. Buy one, get one for $30. They're spend $50, get one, stupid shit like that. So just go check out those websites, keep your eye on them, check them once a month, see what's going on, make sure you have your eyes on plugins. Tip number 15, shortcut speed round. C will make you cut in the playlist and in the piano roll. To copy something over, hold Command B. To select something, hold Command. To copy something and have it placed in a random spot, press Command V. That's useless. Nobody ever uses that. To change into stretch mode away from just being able to expand things, if you needed to stretch this, you can hold Shift M. Command X will delete selected. Command A will select all. Command D will unselect all. Going to the playlist, the piano roll I should say. Like I said, Command B will copy over. Command X will delete all. To put something, to directly duplicate something on top of itself, Command B does not need to be selected. Y will play all the notes that it is covering. E will be a select. E is a select. It's the same thing as holding Command. And again, Command X will get rid of everything. If you have a bunch of notes that are disconnected from each other in the same line and you want to put them together, Command L. If you have a bunch of notes in a bunch of different places, and you want to put them all in the same row, Command K will make you go through the different sounds. There's nothing that you can do about the fucking magnifying tool in FL. They need to remove it. If you have a bunch of different notes in different sections and you want to put them all in the same row, you can hold Alt-K, select C5, accept, and it will put it there. You could also do it for other notes. Home button, if you're working on Mac, you're not gonna have this button, but if you have like an outboard keyboard, or if you're on PC, home will bring you to the start of the song or where your playlist was last set. In this case, it was bringing me to the beginning over here. There you go. That's all you're getting right now. This one's an interesting one. You can actually add reverb and delay directly to sounds inside of the channel rack by going over here to these little miscellaneous functions or whatever. The way that you can do this is right over here. You can change the time and then the feed. This will essentially add a delay. Tip number 17 is a little bit of a random one. You can use, for different layers and stuff, directly add reverb to your chains. And you can do this with a send and make sure that it's outside of mono. Like you turn it, let's say, and like a lot of times you're gonna want to track in mono, but in this case you could just turn this one back to normal, or even separate the stereo, or add a little bit of stereo separation in this case. Add a reverb chain, add a little bit of reverb at the end of your chain for any layers or background vocals you're doing. Make sure you cut out the lows pretty decently and mix it below 20% really, unless you're doing something really wet. It's to taste, but I would highly recommend doing this. When you're doing parallel effects like that, like parallel effects busing, those basically are functioning as an entire separate sound that are underneath or like, you know, essentially on top of your sound. In this case, your reverb is gonna be like your different layers are actually gonna be drowned out from the source with reverb, and we'll put them more into the background and help move it back in the mix. I highly recommend doing this. I do it regularly. For God's sake, tune your 808s. You can go to your 808. Any 808 sample you have might probably already be tuned to the key of C. If it's not, if you want to make sure, right click inside of here, edit in audio editor, go into Edison, pick on this, detect pitch regions. This one, look at that. It's not in C, it's in B. So we're going to take this and we're going to go over here and we're going to move it from C to B. Now, whenever you do your key in your song, it'll actually be in key when you put it in the key of the song. The next one's kind of a random one, but whenever you're saving your files, name them something with the BPM and key in them. So let's put random YouTube video. Oh my God, my typing is not good. Put a dash, put that this song is in 168 beats per minute, and in the key, in this case, of holding, I don't know, I forgot which this one is because I didn't put it in key because it's not done yet, but I think it's an A minor. So in that case, this is going to be good in case you ever send these songs out to people. If you're a producer and you send stuff out to engineers or to artists, they're just instantly going to know the BPM and the key. When you upload your stuff to YouTube, when they rip it off of there, obviously like they're going to do, they're not going to be able to get the actual file name from it. They're just going to get like a stupid URL link as the title. So those people aren't going to have that information, but anybody else you send it to is going to, which is like kind of important. The main thing, the most important reason why I do this is any collaborations that you're doing with people, they're not going to have to mess around and look for the BPM or the key, get it kind of wrong, record a verse, and then send it back and everything needs to be adjusted, or much worse is completely has to be retaken because you didn't label it with the BPM and key that you at least recorded it with, whether it's correct or wrong. Everything will get to be synced up correctly because everyone knows what they're doing because they watched this video and you put the fucking key and the BPM in the title of the song, and nobody's got to go on to Audio Keychain, TuneBat, fucking BPM Tapper, all that stuff. We just get to start making music, which is always so much better than hitting a space bar looking for a BPM or playing with the pentagram pentatonic scale trying to look for the fucking key, okay? Number 20 is going to be learn your plugins and techniques. You as an artist, whether you're a producer, an artist, or an engineer, are not the sum of all of your plugins. You are the sum of how you use all of your plugins and techniques. What I mean by this is if you only have a couple plugins, if you only get the Slate Digital All Access Pass, learn how to use those tools. Let's say you're a producer and all you have is Expand 2 and a cracked version of the Electra. Learn how to use those two plugins really well. Learn all the different kind of sounds. star your favorite ones, save different melodies with them, add different effects like reverb and delay to change in like the timbre of the song, of the sounds. Do creative things. Understand fundamentally what all these different sounds are doing, what's going into making them, what stuff you can change in terms of, usually all of these have an ADSR. Change the attack, the decay, the sustain, the release. Change your sounds. Learn what's going into them. The more you know about the tools you're using, the more effectively you're going to be able to use them. And if you fundamentally understand what you're doing when creating music, you're going to be able to manipulate your sound into a final product much more efficiently and much more creatively. This is a bonus tip that I really didn't want to give out to people because I like watching people struggle with it, but stop using the limiter to sidechain producers. Here's what you'll do. You're going to go to your mixer, and if you get my hybrid production template that I'll be putting on the website relatively soon, if you guys like the video, then you'll have the sidechain mixer routed up inside of there, all running to your master already. Otherwise, just set one up, make sure all your melodic elements are going in there, then put a fruity balance in here. What you're going to do is, if you have a kick, you're going to set your grid to steps. You're going to select just 2. Oh great, that's not 2. You're going to select just 2 of these, in this case like this. You're going to right click right here, create automation clip, then you're going to go make this shape, and it's really, really simple. I'm going to go ahead and expand this for you. Then you're going to make this shape. You're going to go down to the left, down to the middle, crunch that all the way up, hold the Alt key, grab this, bring it right over here on your kick. Let me grab a kick for an example. Now you'll see that when we go in here, and this is not the best example either, to be completely honest, but you'll see right here, see this little area where there's a lot of information going on? This is your transient. We do not want the transient to mesh with the 808. This is going to cause a phase issue, or they're going to cancel each other out. Look, if you do this, then what you can do is, once you have that little thing set up, let's say you adjust it to your liking, delete it. You don't have to put it all over the song everywhere, because there's a really easy way of doing it. Let's say that you have your 808 pattern and your kick, okay? Can't really hear what's going on there, can we? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and run this one to 16 because that's my drums. I'm gonna run this one to 15 because that'll be in my melody. Now these two things are gonna run to each other, right? So this kick is so when I add this, which is the balance volume, that automation clip that we just drew is gonna be engaged. Look at that, you can hear the kick's transient and it's not interfering with the 808. Listen to that difference. In my opinion, it sounds ridiculously cleaner. This is super easy. You can literally just copy Command C and then Command, like let's say if it's like this, you can literally just copy Command C and then click over here, Command V, and it's gonna go there, boom, you're done, okay? And so that's a really fast way of sidechaining stuff. Stop using the limiter, stop using G-Clip, Nicky Romero's kick, fucking whatever the sidechain things that people are using these days. Volume automation, volume automation, volume automation. Not compression, volume automation. Okay, yeah, so that was my 20 FL saucy tips, whatever. Go ahead and go to the website that I showed you to go and get the vocal template. It's pretty cool, man. I think you'll enjoy it. It's going to be right here, Jevonthedragon star template. It is free. You guys are going to get all of that. It's all for you. And then if you guys want to get that FL like stock vocal chain, it's still up for $14. I will be making another rendition of it to improve some things. It's perfectly fine as it is, really. I think it works great for beginners. It's a good place to start. Yeah, so again, I'll be making more videos like this. Let me know what kind of videos you guys want to see. If you guys are more vocalists and artists or engineers and you want to hear more vocal stuff, that is what I do for a living, so I can talk about that stuff more. I am also a producer, so if you guys want to see some more production stuff or you guys are enjoying my beats, let me know in the comments below. I'm going to be dropping a lot of new cool things coming soon. That XVX Volume 1 pack is going to be dropping pretty soon, and yeah, thank you guys for watching. Peace. I'm back on track. I never walk too long, think about this. When you come back, talk about that, I'm making them wrong.